Hey, writer friends, welcome to Let's Write Scripts. I'm Micah Craddy, the head of writing at Arc Studio and a WJ screenwriter, and I'm going to be your host today. Arc Studio is the best screenwriting app in the world, so check it out if you want to use it to write your scripts, which is what I use. There's a link to check it out in the description, or you can just Google Arc Studio. So today on Let's Write Scripts, we're going to be doing 3 writing sprints where you can work on your script or whatever other writing project that you're here to work on. And we'll be chatting about screenwriting in between the sprints and the breaks, and I'll be answering screenwriting questions. It's going to be a great time. We're going to have fun. We always have fun. I always get pumped up at Let's Write Scripts. Before we get into it, I want to know, where are you? And what are you writing today? Those are our standard questions to get us going. Love seeing people from all over the US and all over the world. So let me know where you are. And also, what are you writing today? What kind of project are you working on? Where are you in that project? Get in the chat and let me know. And then we also start with a discussion question to get our brains going a little bit, get us in that writing mode. And so today I want to know, what are some tips for keeping the reader of your script engaged? If you have your script, someone's reading it, what are some tricks that you can use to keep them engaged, to keep them reading, to keep them interested in what it is that you are writing? So get in the chat. Let me know, where are you? What are you writing today? And what are some tips for keeping the reader of your script engaged? And I will also share some thoughts on that in just a moment. If you're feeling it, please like this video, hit subscribe, turn notifications on, all that good stuff. And then during the second break, normally I show the sandwich of the week, which is the best looking sandwich that I made, but we have a special edition because it was Thanksgiving last week. And I was telling y'all before Thanksgiving that I was making a pie for the first time. And we are going to see, how did that pie turn out? How did Micah's pie turn out? And I will say it was a little bit of a roller coaster. I am not a baker. I'd never baked a pie before. I baked it from scratch, and it was some ups and downs, but we'll see how it turned out in the end. So that'll be during the second break. I will reveal the pie and tell the story of how that pie went. Which brings me to also, I hope you guys had great Thanksgivings for those who were celebrating it. I had a really good time last week. We actually hosted in our backyard, because that's the nice thing about living in LA, is that in November you can host outdoor gatherings. And we had some friends and family, and it was really awesome. So I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving as well. All right. So it's going to be a great day. Loving seeing everybody in the chat, seeing Cash in Arkansas working on a short film. Oh, we got a Bolivian in the house. Awesome. So glad you're here. Sion from Ireland, I believe, the Emerald Isle, finished the rough draft of a feature, now decided to pen down ideas for satire feature. Great. Now we're dropping from Ireland down under to Australia, working on a short film script. JP writer, so glad you're here. Back up to the US for Kim in Nashville, originally Brooklyn, revising a sci-fi pilot. Heading West Coast. Sorry, I'm doing like just a geographic jump around here. For Valentina, working on an animated series for teens. Great. And then back to the East Coast for Jeff in New York City, working on a Christmas script. 'Tis the season, Jeff. I hope you're like channeling that spirit. Have you all started your decorating and all that stuff yet? We haven't yet, although I was doing some runs in my neighborhood, and because the gym I go to, their plumbing is down. So I've been exercising at home, and been like seeing people put up the lights everywhere and seeing more trees and everything, getting in that spirit. Staying in the East Coast for Juneau in Massachusetts, working on a TV series. Psyched to see this pie. I'm excited to show you guys the pie. It was a lot. It was, I like cooking, and I'm always like, I want to cook more. And then I start doing it. And if it's anything that's more involved than like one or than a couple steps, I get very stressed out by it. Hopping over to Romania for Vlad. Vlad from Romania. Not a vampire, though. I'm sorry, that's such an American thing to say. But so glad you're here, Vlad. Working on a feature script about a meditation retreat in the Norwegian mountains. Oh, that sounds fun. Does that have a horror vibe to it? Or maybe not, because you're positive media wave. So it could be, maybe it's just a nice meditation retreat where nothing horrible happens. In New Mexico, Pam's back, working on a rom-com feature, keeping readers engaged. All right. So getting back to, this was the question of the week. What are some tips you have for keeping readers engaged when they're reading your script? Short but fun action lines. Don't want lengthy action lines that take the reader out of the flow. Yeah, this is a great, it's kind of an ongoing debate in screenwriting terms about like, how long should your action lines be? How big should the paragraphs be? And I'm not one for hard and fast rules. I always am about tools, not rules, because there are some fantastic scripts that do have lengthier action, but like a good general rule of thumb is that, like shorter, punchy action lines can be great. specifically if you have something that's moving quickly, in a script that you can keep the reader moving through. So that's a great tip, Pam. Hello, Nexus Studios, glad you're here. Tessa in Studio City, developing character motivations. A basic way to keep readers engaged is just to keep descriptions concise, stop the reader's eye from glazing over from the large chunks of text. Yeah, similar to Pam's advice. There is, I think, though, you guys are both hitting on a kind of psychological thing that happens sometimes when a reader looks at a script. If they just see huge chunks of text, it's kind of like, oh, that's a little bit. So it is something to think about, like breaking up the text a little bit and trying to be concise, because it is screenwriting is, it is an art of concision. It is about what is on the page. There are certain things, you're not going to write it the same way as you're going to write a novel in terms of your description. Really, like distilling things down to the essence is a great skill to develop. Christian in South Carolina working on an 8th draft. Oh man, you're locking in there. Tune up dialogue. Now stuck and questioning a scene. Yeah, I mean, hey, ask yourself, what's the point of the scene? What do the characters want? What happens if you take it out? What does it affect your narrative? What does it affect your characters? But, it also could be a scene that's not all scenes have to be about the plot. Is it important in the tone of the script? Is it important in the journey that the characters are going on? Yeah, a lot of questions you can ask yourself, but sometimes you got to cut scenes, that happens. Diamond in LA working on an outline for an hour-long pilot. So great. Cash is already after Thanksgiving, but is the day after we start Christmas. So you're decorating. Dropping down. Brian in Jacksonville working on a novel series. Fantastic. Zoe from South Africa. Is that SA, I think? Or South America? I'm thinking it's South Africa. I think it's South Africa. Working on Act 3 of your screenplay. Awesome. We are super international today. That is true. I love it. Interesting. And Kelly in Kansas working on a feature still. I mean, hey, features take a while. I'm loving seeing everybody. We got people from all over the world. We are very international. That's fantastic. I am in Los Angeles, and it is a sunny, beautiful day. As you can tell, the sun, look at that. It is like blasting in through my window. And I'm finishing Act 1 on a new feature that I've been writing. That's what I'll be working on today. And a couple of tips I'll just share for keeping readers engaged, which was our discussion question. One is think about what questions your reader is asking, or what questions the script is asking. So for instance, I was thinking about this because I'm making some shorts about The Bourne Identity, which is one of my favorite movies. And in The Bourne Identity, right, the question at the beginning is, Jason Bourne, this guy wakes up, he's fished out of the ocean, he doesn't remember who he is. And so who is he? Who is this guy? Like, that's a question that's driving it. And the audience wants to know. In that case, the character also wants to know. But it's this kind of central question that's driving the narrative that the audience is invested in. And then they answer that question. You find out who he is, right? And it's not an answer that he likes. He finds out he's not a good guy. And then as soon as that question is answered, a second question is then sort of asked. It's not asked directly. It's more kind of intuitive. And that question is like, do you have to be that guy, right? Can you change who you are? Can you change your fate? Can you choose your identity? Can you choose to be a better person? One of those questions. I was like 5 questions, but they're all asking basically the same thing. And that's what kind of drives the last part of it. Do you have to go to this path? Can you be a different person? So having these kind of questions, thinking about what questions your characters are thinking about, and making them compelling questions. And then if you've answered that question, following it up with another question. That's one way to keep readers engaged. Another is at the scene level. Make sure your scenes are about something. Most scenes have a structure. They start because a character wants something. The middle is them kind of trying to get it in some way. And then it ends with success or failure. Not every scene has this. And the things that they want can be like physical, or it can be more emotional. But generally, there's a reason for the scene. There's a motivation for it. The character wants something. They're not just sort of passively there. And when you have most of your scenes that kind of have this sort of structure, it's something that's very compelling. Third, remember that the audience or the reader experiences it through the character. So really kind of focus in on what the emotional journey of your character is. And that's going to really help it be compelling. So those are a couple of tips for you guys here. Juno, did YouTube stop displaying people's formatted names in favor of usernames sometimes? I wonder. Yeah, it says the @ thing now. I don't know why that happened, but it does here. Oh, Gabrielle in SoCal on a rom-com. Happy to join you all on riding today. I'm happy that you all are here. Sheila in snowy Chicagoland. I had some friends in Chicago for Thanksgiving, and I was like looking at their stories on Instagram, and we FaceTimed our friends on Thanksgiving, and it was like a beautiful sunny winter day, and I guess like the snowstorm hit like right after that, and so there's no I can't identify with the snow right now. I'm just in LA where it's a beautiful sunny day. But please don't hold that against me. All right, we're going to get into it now. We're going to get into the first writing sprint. If you're new, the way this works is in just a second, there's going to be a timer up on the screen counting down. I am going to shrink and be kind of off over to the side. I'm going to play some groovy, vibey music. And for 15 minutes, that's our first sprint. You just kind of lock in and like do whatever it is you need to do. This is just kind of an open time for you really to set aside, just to like lock in and make progress in whatever you are, at whatever stage you are in the process. So they're not directed. I'm not giving you a topic because we're all working on different projects. We're all at different stages of the project. So it's just kind of like Pomodoro method kind of, within a group, right? Where we're going to have this time. So the first one is 15 minutes, and then we'll do a second sprint after a break that's 25 minutes. And then for the third sprint, we'll see how we're doing on time, how many questions, how much we're talking in between the sprints. The first sprint is usually like pretty chill. I have to make a conscious effort to slow my voice down because I think of it as like the warm-up sprint. It's chill. You're just kind of getting in the groove. Oftentimes you're reading back over what you were working on before, especially if you've been doing other things today. Your mind's everywhere, all over the place. Read back over, your work, do some free writing, or just jump in, wherever you're at, but like lower the bar on the first sprint. It's the warm-up sprint. Any work you get done, great. That's not fantastic, but it's a low bar. So yeah, I think, are you guys ready? Are you guys ready to write? Cause I'm feeling it today. I'm feeling pumped up. 15 minutes on the clock. Let's get this music going. And I will catch you on the other side. After 15 minutes, I'll answer some questions. We have screenwriting questions. And we are going to go. Kelly is setting the bar low. We're all going to join her, and we're all going to get over that bar. So 15 minutes on the clock. Catch you guys all on the other side. Let's do it. All right. That brings us to the end of the first writing sprint here on Let's Write Scripts, as I speak to you in my relaxation voice. All right. Welcome to everyone who joined during that writing sprint. This is Let's Write Scripts, brought to you by Arc Studio. I'm Micah Crowdy, WJ Screenwriter, head of writing at Arc Studio, the best screenwriting app in the world. Check it out at the link in the description, or Google Arc Studio Pro, or go to arcstudiopro.com, or do whatever you want to do, really. I want to know, if you were doing that writing sprint, how did it go? Are the muses with us today? Are the words flowing? Are you feeling good? Does it feel like what's happening up here is coming out down there? Let me know. Or if not, are you struggling? Or is there some sort of disconnect? Is this not working too well? Are the muses far off? Perhaps still relaxing after a huge Thanksgiving dinner? Let me know how it is. And if you're struggling with anything in particular, let me know about that. Do you have any questions? I love answering questions about the craft of writing, craft of screenwriting. It could be something, again, inspired by like what you're struggling with right now at this moment, or just kind of a general question about story, about character, about scene work, about really, any of these things. Get in the chat and let me know, and I'd be happy to answer those. It went pretty well for me. I kind of had finished a first pass on basically on this first act that I'm working on. And I'm just kind of going through and just like doing some like tightening work, improving the scenes just a little bit. It's interesting because we kind of talk about writing styles a lot on this show. And I talk a lot about vomit drafts, or shitty first drafts, or crappy first drafts, depending on how you want to phrase them. And I kind of would think of myself sometimes as a vomit draft person, but I realize I'm not really a vomit draft person. I saw a video about Noah Baumbach, he co-wrote Barbie, wrote The Squid and the Whale, directed it, and he's done a lot of stuff. And he kind of talks about how he's sort of like an overlapping wave writer. So like he'll write something and then kind of go back and write a little more and then go back. It's kind of like a sawtooth pattern almost. And I realize that's kind of more the style of writing that I am. I write a sequence or a section or an act kind of, and then I like go back a bit, and then I write the next bit, and then I go back a bit, and then I write a little further. And I kind of think like that's actually more my writing style. So that's what I'm working on right now. There are a couple things in the chat that I wanted to comment on. Brian mentioned this. Because we're talking about, the discussion question today is, how do you keep readers engaged? And Brian says he's working on his novels. He keeps readers engaged using technical jargon they can learn. And at first I saw this and I was like, all right. And I'm like, kind of needed my brain to work on it a minute. Like, what's my thought on this? So it raised a little bit of a red flag, not just like a warning, which is to say that a little bit of technical jargon actually can be great, right? Because it creates this feeling of verisimilitude, right? Like that you're in a real world that uses this language, right? Like language gives a sense of authenticity, which is really cool. And a little bit like it keeps your brain engaged, because you're kind of trying to figure out what it means through the context clues. But it's kind of like a spice, not a main ingredient in some sense. It's a seasoning, whereas there's a risk of going too far. If you use too much technical jargon, it becomes inaccessible. It becomes homework, right? It's not fun anymore. It's just kind of like you're straining to figure out the language, so you're missing the story, you're missing the character work. So I will just say that a little bit, Brian, can be great, but, and this isn't, sometimes it's something that comes out in drafts, right? Where you just sort of, you fine tune it. You have a little too much, you have a little too little, right? And over time you kind of like zero in on the right much. So just something to keep in mind though. And then, the snow we were talking about, 10 inches of snow. Wow. Just Pam was in Chicago and she abandoned it. Zoe was also saying, we were talking about scenes. I always think of it as whether or not a scene pushes the narrative character development forward, or if it serves as stagnation. That's usually how I try to keep a script engaging. The stagnation thing is really interesting, where I think that you're on to something there. Are we moving forward? And again, though, but this is like a general rule, because sometimes you need like a moment of reflection, like something big has happened, and sometimes you need a quiet moment, right? Where the character's just sort of processing and the audience needs to sit with it a little bit. So there's like a rhythm to things. But that's why I think the word stagnation is interesting and helpful, because it's kind of like not everything has to be forward, 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 right? Because sometimes it can be a pause, a moment, again, of reflection, but then it moves forward again, you know? And if there's too many scenes or things aren't moving forward or you're kind of lagging too long, then you do get that sense of stagnation. And Juno with our new motto, let's lower that bar. I love it. Adam joined late, but it jumped into it. The music helped. It's vibey music. It's great. Quan, welcome back, man. Surprisingly flowing. Hopefully we'll add a solid version to share others next week. That's great. JP, that was great. The words flowed more than I thought they would have. Fleshing out a character I've been strong with. Awesome. Cash is doing quite well today, especially based on November work. Just need to stick to comedy for now. Fantastic. Sion got some great ideas penned on recent conversations. Any tips on writing the satire genre for someone like me who's never dipped into that area? Oh, man. Satire is tricky. I'm trying to think off the top of my head if I have any tips for writing satire. I mean, one of it is just kind of like deciding on like the level of it that you're going to, because there are some like things that have like satirical elements, and then there's just like the pure on satire, and it's really kind of, again, dialing in exactly like what level you want at, because so I just sort of like I changed my mind halfway through that sentence. I will say one thing that can be helpful, particularly like in earlier drafts, is like don't just rely on the satire. Like have character and story and things underneath that are kind of enough for it to move forward on. And then the other thing I would just say is like know what your point of view is. Like there's something where it's like there's a level of satire where you're just kind of poking fun at it, and that's fine. That can be fun. But you can also go kind of for a deeper level where you're like you're saying something about whatever the thing is that you're satirizing, right? Like where you're saying something about society or about a certain, tendency, or about a way we do things, or so knowing what your point of view is, taking some time to think about what your point of view is on whatever this subject is that you're satirizing, can be helpful. Any tips for clarifying, strengthening the motivation for a character is characterized by his indecisiveness? Yeah. So one thing I always like to say is that like, if the character doesn't want to move, then the world needs to move the character. Right. So if the character, you can have a character who wants the status quo or doesn't know what to do, but staying still shouldn't be comfortable for them, right? If staying still and being indecisive, not making a stand is comfortable, then like they never need to move and it's fine. So whatever the position that they want to remain is, their safe spot or their like inability to choose, put pressure on that position, make it uncomfortable to stay there. And that's really going to help push them forward and push the story forward. So mixed rejections. Brian didn't have a great writing sprint, but Kelly had a little bit better than expected. Juno's sprint was okay. Reread stuff I wrote. Bad news. Wrote stuff I wrote on the project months ago. Bad news. I don't like it. Good news. I have better news for it now. Look, there's always the bright side of looking back at something and you not liking it. One, yeah, it can be depressing at first, but like two things that can happen. First off is just recognizing that it's bad is progress, because you probably couldn't recognize it at the time. And so you have a greater understanding of it. So I guess that's two part of that. One, you can have a greater understanding of the project and like what you're working at. I said there were two things. And I think what I mean by the two things is that there's two aspects of growth that this can be a symptom of. First is the growth of your understanding of the project, right? Like you have a better understanding of it. You understand what the point is, what it's missing, what you're trying to do with it. So that's one area of growth. The second is, and this is oftentimes when you're reading things you wrote like a long time ago, is that it can be a sign of your growth as a writer, that like you now recognize things that you didn't before. So yeah, it's not always the bad everything here. All right. Network is a great satire. Best scripts. Yeah, definitely. If you're for Tiarn, you can check that out. Difference between stagnation and keeping good pace. I mean, your preference, really, it's your taste. But again, it's it's not, you don't always like, you don't nail it in the first draft necessarily. We were talking about pacing earlier and stagnation and the rhythm and the flow. Sometimes you just have to try it. It emerges after the draft. I mean, just kind of keep in mind like what you're trying to do, what kind of movie you're writing. There's like, if you're writing an action thriller, that's going to have a different pacing than a character drama, right? So understanding what it is that you're trying to write, and understanding kind of like what the fun of it is, right? Like what is the thing, what is the aspect of it, that people are going to be coming to this script for to enjoy, and making sure like you're serving that, I would say. Yeah, White Lotus is a different kind of satire, right? Like it's a little more indirect, but like that's another good example. Any thoughts on how to bring a dramatic moments in a story about a goofy character a little bit more lighthearted? Sorry, any thoughts on how to bring dramatic moments in a story about a goofy character a little more lighthearted? Sometimes it feels like it's way easier to make your characters suffer. Yeah, I mean, remember they're human, I would guess, is something that's very helpful here. Like a goofy character, like they can still be insecure, right? About themselves. They can be embarrassed, right? They can have motivations for the things they're doing. They can have wants and they can be disappointed by things. So kind of remembering the humanity of the goofy character can be very helpful on how to add some dramatic moments in there. Think about, again, like their disappointments, their hopes, like the thing they're trying to do, their understanding of like how the world is looking at them. And some of those things I think can help. Walt Disney, for every laugh there should be a tear. Yeah, there's a balance there. Awesome. All right. So man, loving it. Good questions, guys. Good discussion so far. I think we should keep rolling. I think we should keep this momentum going. We're going to go into the 25-minute right sprint. So they call this one the Cinderella. No, not the Cinderella. Sorry, Walt Disney got me thrown there. The Goldilocks right sprint, because it's the middle one, right? The porridge isn't too hot, it's too cold. The right sprint, the first one, maybe you're getting warmed up. And the third one, maybe you're tired. But in the middle one, you're just like right in the sweet spot. So this is the Goldilocks writing sprint. I'm going to put 25 minutes on the clock, and we're going to do some more writing. And then after the sprint, I'm going to answer some more questions, and I'm going to show the pie of the week, reveal how my Thanksgiving pie, the first time I've ever baked a pie from scratch, baked the crust, did the whole thing. We're going to show how that went. I'll tell my tale of adventure, my hero's journey I went through as I baked this pie, my all is lost moment, my triumph, perhaps in the end. We'll find out. How I grew as a character. No, the pie and more screenwriting discussion to come. But first, we are going to. I love this. Sorry, the Cinderella sprint is the one where you get cut off at the end and your work gets turned into a pumpkin. Well done, Juno. Well done. I like that. All right, we're going to get the music going here again. We are going to get the 25-minute. Oh yeah. No sandwiches today. It's pie day. 25 minutes on the clock. Catch you guys on the other side. Let's do it. All right. We are done with that sprint. Sometimes I wonder actually if when I like whisper like that, instead of being less scary, if you're locked in, it's more scary. Like if like I just realized that if you were like writing somewhere and then you just heard someone saying, I missed the end, that actually could be terrifying. So apologies for that. If my attempt to be less disruptive actually gave you a little bit of like heart palpitations. Anyways, welcome to Let's Write Scripts. If you joined during that writing sprint, this is Let's Write Scripts. Sorry, I had the word sprints in my head. Let's Write Scripts, a weekly show about screenwriting where we do timed writing sprints together and I answer screenwriting questions and we hang out, we talk about screenwriting, and we're just able to be creative and write and just like do all those awesome things and just honestly have a fun time. Yeah, if you did that writing sprint, how did it go? If you were struggling in the first sprint, did things turn around in the second sprint? If you were doing well in the first sprint, did things continue on that trajectory, or did they take a sharp turn into like a precarious road with no guardrail where you perhaps fell to your demise? Anyways, let me know how that went for you. And if you have any screenwriting questions, something that could have been, again, prompted by what you were just working on, or just general screenwriting questions about character, about story, about dialogue, about, pacing we were talking about. We were talking about a lot of good stuff earlier. Any other questions, get in the chat and let me know. Obviously, just quick announcement. We are doing this again next week. That'll be the 10th. And then I think we'll probably also do it on the 17th. And then we'll be off for a couple weeks because the 24th is Christmas Eve and then the 31st is New Year's Eve. I'll be off for both of those. So then we'll be back on January 7th. So I think we got two more, the 10th and the 17th. And then we'll be off for a couple weeks for the holidays. And then we'll be back on the 7th. So please come back next week. You can RSVP at arcstudiopro.com/events or at the link below, or just like show up Wednesdays at 1 p.m. on the Arc Studio Screenwriting at Arc Studio Screenwriting, I believe. We're always here on this YouTube channel. So you can just come find us. And I hope to see you all next week, especially if it's your first time or your second time. All right. So the whispering thing was definitely more scary. That's great. The whisper definitely made me think someone was going to crawl out of my PC. Okay, great. So we're just confirming that was not good. That was not good on my part. I'll just try to be like more friendly, be like, hey guys, we're done with writing now. Or maybe I'll just like pull the music down and then that'll just be a natural transition. Anyway, so good to know. Don't do that the whisper thing anymore. We need a super chill code word to end the sprint that won't freak anybody out. That's true. Let's see here. For Tessa, the muses were feeling alive. That's awesome. For Zoe, feeling a little slow overall, but actually finished a scene I've been holding off for 2 months. Oh, awesome. That's fantastic. Pamela, sprint was good, but slow moving because I'm finally going from plotting my beats to writing in format and writing in dialogue. Takes me longer to write dialogue. Okay, the transition from like outline and story beats into scene writing is an overlooked, underappreciated, I don't know, what am I trying to say? It's really hard is what I'm trying to say. And it's kind of slept on. People don't talk about it as much. Honestly, that is, I think, the most difficult part of screenwriting for me is actually transforming your ideas from just the raw story material into actually how you're going to dramatize it in the scene. How are you going to start the scene? What's the pace of the scene? What's the first image of the scene? Like, where are the characters? What are their attitudes? What are they feeling right now? Like all of these things, it suddenly becomes very real. So all that is to say, that is very normal to like, not necessarily struggle, but just like, that's hard to do. Right. Like, so that's a natural thing. I think we probably all feel that when we're moving from kind of the purely story outlining phase into actually writing the scenes, because in your brain, you're like, yeah, I know what it is. I figured it out. And so I think that's one of the reasons why it's hard. Because even though it's happened to me a million times, I'm still unprepared for it. I'm still surprised when I'm like, why is this hard? Why is this so difficult? I thought I figured it out. And it turns out, no, you hadn't figured it out. You just sort of figured out the bigger beats, but not actually like the reality of it, like the world of like the lived in, we are all in this, these are physical beings in a physical space, feeling emotions and doing things and saying things. And like, it's like, doing three-dimensional problem solving. And anyways, it's hard. So yeah, I definitely feel that. All right, let's see here. For JP, same trajectory, sprints really helping. Great. Next time was for 7 days. Yeah, that'll be helpful, Cash. Love that. Kim, went through my actions and tightened them a bit, so now shows doesn't tell. Nice. Describe things that are happening rather than describing how it should feel. Removed adverbs. That's interesting. Sometimes though you can describe how the character feels, as long as it's something that's kind of like helpful that would be helpful for an actor. Like you can kind of say they are surprised. Like you don't have to say every time that like their face, like you can just kind of give them a thing. I always think of it in terms of like, will this be helpful to an actor, to a director? But there's a longer discussion to be had about scene descriptions. Kelly, the sprint went great. Just working on character interests, which helped me get into creative zone. Cool. And remember, I have a video on the Arc Studio Screenwriting channel about character intros. And for me, it's always about it's about the vibe of the person. Like, what is their essence that you're trying to get across? What's the thing about them, that you want the audience to keep in mind? What's the thing about them that affects how their world sees them? Awesome. All right, cool. So I think now we are going to, there's a question earlier from Sheila. I missed this. Formatting question. For montage of ongoing activities versus several different shots, what's the difference? For montage so kind of the difference of them both set to music. I mean, there's really not one way to do a montage, really. There are a lot of different ways. Check out Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad scripts if you can find some online. Like, they love montages, and now Pluribus, and then they do a lot that are actually set to music. I would say check out, for example, try to find some Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul scripts online that have some montages in them, because they do a great job of that. I think like the thing is, you asked about formatting. It doesn't really matter as long as it's clear and we know just what the kind of individual beats of the montage are. You can use dashes sometimes. I'll use dashes for like to set off the small if it's shorter ones. But there are a lot of examples for formatting that you can find that'll help you with that. All right, cool. So now it is time to reveal the pie. Normally, this is the point where if you knew, I would show the sandwich of the week. It's like the best looking sandwich that I made that week and the tastiest one. And we're all just a thing we do here because it's fun. But last week was Thanksgiving, and I decided that I wanted to try to bake a pie. And this was started because a year ago, we went, my wife and I, who was then my fiance, we picked up our rings, our wedding rings, and across the street was a pie shop. And we went there, and they had a seasonal sweet potato pie. And so it was the first time I'd ever had sweet potato pie. I know it's like big in the South, but I'm over here in California. Sweet potato pie is not like a huge thing here. And so I'd never had sweet potato pie. And I'm like, this is delicious. So that was in the back of my mind. And then we were hosting Thanksgiving, and I kind of was like, oh, I want to just try something. I felt like when you're hosting, there's always that like, all right, how much people are bringing food? How much do I, as the host, have to make? Like, how do we feel good about people showing up and then feeling like, okay, the hosts did a good job hosting? So I was thinking about like what I could contribute personally. And I was like, I want to try to bake a pie. I want to try to make that a sweet potato pie. So I found like a New York Times recipe. I was excited about it. And I watched a bunch of YouTube videos on different pies and everything, and so I was like, I want to make the crust. And then I just got very stressed out about it because it was just like all this advice and all these different ways of making pie. And suddenly it just became just too much. And like, I regretted telling people that I was going to make a pie because I got very excited and like I do. And I told people I was going to make this pie. And so I'm like, crap, now I have to do this thing because I can't just have people show up and be like, I was too scared to do the pie. So I did it, and like, I'll just show you the pie, and then I'll talk about the emotional journey more of creating that pie. I would say overall, it went pretty well. This is the pie. The crust was tasty. You will notice it's not the most beautiful crust. I tried crimping it, the thing where you give it the little pattern around the zigzaggy pattern. That didn't go great. But like the crust actually did turn out fine. And the pie itself turned out pretty good. And like, it's not the best looking sweet potato pie in the world. I will say that for sure. And I'll kind of explain more of why it doesn't look exactly like you would expect a sweet potato pie to look, but it tasted really good. and I made whipped cream, like a little handmade, or not handmade, but homemade whipped cream. We got with some heavy whipping cream, and it was pretty good. Um, oh, thanks, guys. Yeah. And the crust, I was proud of that. I was proud because I was like, oh, you can make, you can buy a crust. Oh, yeah, it's make me feel special. Thank you so much. But let me take you now through the journey of this pie. So this was the point where so I did this thing called blind baking, which is basically when you make the crust, you like pre-bake it before you put the filling in so that the bottom doesn't get like soggy when you cook it. Particularly if you're doing a pie like look at me with my pie knowledge. If you're doing a pie that's called like a custard style pie, which is like pumpkin pie, where you kind of create that kind of custardy filling and put it in, or sweet potato. So I did that. And the thing is, you're supposed to put like weights. You put your pie in the thingy, and then you put like wax paper on it, and then or parchment paper, and then you weight it down, and they like sell like pie weights. And I'm like, I'm not going to buy pie weights. Like, that's insane to spend like $40-$50 on pie weights for my first pie. And they're like, you can use dried beans or you can use rice. And I'm like, oh, we have this bag of rice. So I used it and like blind baked it. And then as I was removing the rice, I spilled a bunch of rice into the pie, which is, these aren't maggots that you're looking at here. This is just rice. And it, like the pie, but the crust wasn't even fully baked. So I'm like having to use a fork and like individually get each piece of rice out of this thing. And it was very stressful. Yeah, no. So they also sell these like bead things that you can do for it. I used rice, which was right there. It definitely is giving homemade. I agree that. Oh yeah. So that was the first problem. The bigger problem, the real like dark night of the soul that I had, I would have had to, I don't have any like tweezers that aren't like for the human body, like I have no like cooking tweezers, but that would have been a better thing here. So the real problem when I was making the sweet potato pie is that at first I roasted the sweet potatoes, right? You roast them, it gets them all like soft inside and gooey. And so I roasted them for like an hour, blah, blah, blah. And then I cut them open. Oh, this was the blind bake pie. This is actually looks pretty in the little oven that I was using for this. But so this was like, all right, yeah, this turned out fine. Look at that. You can see the little holes in there. You use the fork and you kind of like poke holes in the bottom of it. And it's great. Oh my gosh. Scotch tape could have been brilliant for actually getting the rice out. Man, see, this is the thing. In the moment, you're like stressed. You don't think about it. But the real problem was after I cut open these sweet potatoes, I saw that they were white inside. And they're not supposed to be white inside. They are supposed to be orange inside because that's what gives it the color. And so I cut open the sweet potatoes and I'm like, this is going to look horrible. This is just going to look like a mashed potato pie. Because I found out after that I got Japanese sweet potatoes because we were at the farmer's market. I like get sweet potatoes a lot. I like cube them and air fry them and kind of make little like delicious, like seasoned things that I love. We used to get those at the grocery store. This was Thanksgiving. So I'm like, I'm going to get fancy ones from the farmer's market to make my fancy pie. And then I just got the wrong ones. And so I'm like, what is this going to look like? And then I started mashing them. And that's really when the horror set in, because this is what my pie filling looked like. It's kind of oxidized. It was this sort of greenish, gray baby vomit looking thing. And I was just panicking because I was just like, this is honestly though, someone I looked up, like I was Googling frantically pie with white sweet potatoes and someone suggested food coloring, but I don't think I had any. And that just felt like, I don't know. I was like, I'm just going to roll with whatever it is. So I matched this, and I'm like, okay, maybe once I add the rest of the ingredients, I think this was just pure mashed sweet potato. Maybe the coloring will change. I'm adding the nutmeg and I'm adding these, other stuff. It didn't, it still looked bad. And so I put it in the oven. And I just was like, well, we'll see what it looks like at the end. But then at the end, look, there's me being very happy and proud with my pie, because it sort of turned into this kind of graham cracker colored thing that yeah, it browned up in there. Although I still didn't know until like slicing it open whether the inside was still going to be that green color or not. But like when we sliced it, it was fine. I once made homemade salsa that turned whitish brown, tasted fine. Yeah, the color thing is weird. Yeah, I don't even know about like more about like sweet potatoes versus yams. Like the more I like look into it, I'm just like, I think I'm going to leave that alone. It's too much for me. Pie baking is complex, but I think I'll probably do more. I also had to buy that pie pan. I didn't have a pie pan, so I got this like one that I'm holding here. But it turned I feel very stressed. Kelly, imagine how I felt. Imagine though the thing is though I actually baked this the day before because I had a feeling it was not going to go smoothly. And I'm like, if I bake it the day before, I could just like make another one if it goes all horribly wrong. So I did it, and it turned out fine, and people enjoyed my pie. And I also think people have very low expectations of of the pie because I'm like, I don't really know what I'm doing. But I think I'll probably try to bake some more pies because I didn't even have a rolling pin. I had to buy a rolling pin to do this too. When I was like making, I didn't take really a lot of photos of the crust, but like I'd use the like food processor to make the crust, and then you form it into this disc, and then you put it in the fridge for an hour or two, and then you roll it out, and it was just a lot of stuff. Anyways, yeah. So I'm all exactly set the bar low, and people were very impressed by your pie. So anyways, that was my pie story. So I made a pie. Great Thanksgiving dinner. It was really fun. And I think I don't know what my next pie will be. Maybe it'll be another sweet one. I want to try a savory pie at some point. Like I think that could be interesting, like a meat pie or something. I don't know. Anyways, there we go. Great little storytelling microcosm. Yeah, there you go. There's 3 acts, I think, of that story. The ultimate triumph. Although the triumph was in doubt. I could always bring sandwiches. I might. Although honestly, my favorite thing about Thanksgiving is the leftover sandwiches. I didn't take photos of them because they're very simple. Like my after Thanksgiving sandwiches are the most simple things. I literally just do bread, turkey, and mayonnaise. And I've done that for years. Like I just love leftover turkey. It's just like it's a different, I don't know, it's just like a special thing. I only do that after Thanksgiving, but like the 2 or 3 days after Thanksgiving, I just have these very simple, plain sandwiches. So there we go. Thanks. I appreciate that. I actually might do pizza because now that we have a rolling pin, I can do more things here. Rhubarb pie. That's interesting. I do like a rhubarb pie. These are good suggestions. All right. Well, there we go. Anyways. All right. So that was the pie. That was the pie story. And probably next week back to normal sandwich content. Although I mentioned this before that I'm kind of getting a little not tired of sandwiches, but like just every week doing a sandwich, it's hard to kind of keep trying to think of good sandwiches. Like to me, they're just starting to feel the same. I know a lot of you guys love the sandwiches, but I want to try to throw in some variety. So maybe I'll bake some things or cook some things, or I don't know. We'll find out. Whatever. You gotta adapt. You gotta grow. You can't be stagnant. We were talking about stagnation earlier. That's the thing. I'm afraid with my sandwiches, I've been stagnating a little bit. So I need to move forward. But that is enough pie talk. We're going to do one more writing sprint. 15 minutes on the clock, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you're having a good time. I hope you're learning some things. I hope you're making progress or just like, enjoying being with fellow creatives and dedicating this time to your writing. Such an important thing to do. Yeah, we're going to do one more writing sprint. If you have to leave, I know we're kind of coming up to end of time here. So if you have to leave during this, no worries. Say farewell in the chat. Ooh, grilled cheese sandwich. I might do one of those. Try if I can get like a good pull. That you do that. It's like it's all about how gooey it is when you pull it apart. Maybe I'll try that. All right. But anyways, we are gonna write. I could easily distract. 15 minutes on the clock. Final sprint. Let's lock in. Thank you so much for being here. If you have to leave, say farewell in the chat. Final 15 minutes. So let's just kind of try to just get this last 15 minutes to our writing before we part ways. So 15 minutes on the clock. Here we go. This is me, friendly, saying that the sprint is over and not giving anyone a jump scare, hopefully, because I turned the music down first. Was that any better? Anyways, that was the end of our last write sprint, which means this is the end of Let's Write Scripts for Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025. We will be back next week, Wednesday, December 10th at 1 p.m. Pacific, live at the on the Arc Studio YouTube channel at Arc Studio Screenwriting. Please, please be there. I hope to see you all next week. I hope you have great weeks. I hope you do some more writing. Just don't try to do it more than once a week. I hope you had a great time. I had an awesome time. I always love hanging out with you guys. I get great writing done. And I love talking about this stuff and just like sharing this creative energy with y'all. So yeah, that is it for now. Please be kind to yourselves and happy writing. And I will catch many of you next week. Until then, peace out, everyone.